All right, against my better judgment, why don't we talk about the release of D2 Ash and Iron, which just dropped last week, and unfortunately, it's been a bit of a mess. Which is extra unfortunate, by the way, because literally minutes before Ash and Iron launched, we got a fairly extensive look at Renegades, which I think actually looks awesome. But yeah, sadly, all of that hype immediately evaporated when folks finally walked into Ash and Iron, which was basically the Donald Glover pizza gif from Community. Now, even though I'm going to be critical about some things in Ash and Iron, I'm hoping that it's going to be with some kind of purpose behind it. That is to say, if anyone from Bungie winds up watching this video for whatever reason, it isn't just me saying, her new update bad, but rather me saying, hey, this sucks, but here's why. That way, maybe it might lead to an actual discussion, which hopefully leads to the game actually improving, especially during a time window where there are so many other hyped up games out there to compete with, like, good lord. All right, topic number 1, the bugs. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think any player out there at this point is expecting any major D2 update to drop in bug-free. Bugs are inevitable in any live service game, especially for any that have lasted as long as Destiny 2. But god damn, if there were ever a point where we really needed to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, now would probably be that time, as player morale is basically underground. A bunch of weird problems shipped along with Ash and Iron. And yeah, no launch is going to be completely bug-free, but the best case scenario is that the problems are, at worst, really only the ones that make the community giggle. A great example of this would be the exotic hand cannon Sturm, which, if you didn't know, got a very weird glitch. Basically, you use Drang to get kills and overcharge your Sturm, and then take out your Sturm. And as long as you're holding out your Sturm and holding onto the overcharged shots instead of just shooting them away, then all of your outgoing ability damage gets buffed by a wild amount. And yeah, that does include supers. PvE-wise, this was nothing short of hilarious, and many players were giggling and even having fun using this glitch to absolutely nuke bosses. Again, these types of glitches are best case scenario for PvE players looking to have a little extra fun. Just silly haha damage number get huge, let's go commit dungeon and raid crimes together. But then there are the bad bugs. The kind of bugs where I'm really not sure why these didn't get eradicated before the content launched, because it was actively harmful to the Ash and Iron player experience. For example, during the new Reclaim activity, which is basically just kind of overthrow in the Plaguelands, there was a glitch where you would use your ship to kind of fast travel from one area to the next area. Activating that fast travel could straight up get you killed. Now, normally, not that bad, just go ahead and respawn, right? Well, remember that once you hit a certain difficulty level when playing Reclaim, which you kind of have to play on at a certain point in order to get higher power drops, you get limited revives in this activity. So if and when the glitch happened, you could get flat out softlocked and have to completely restart the activity, which is very annoying. You had PvP matches in comp getting bugged so that they were ending after one team would just get 7 kills. You had a completely screwed up in-game timer in Presage, which wouldn't even let you finish the activity. And if you tried to power grind in the Whisper activity, you learned that blights were bugged and doing omega lethal damage if you stepped inside of them. There were also bugs about the newly updated power grind not working as advertised, and that one really hurt, because going into Ash and Iron, the power grind was a huge pain point from the community. And to Bungie's credit, they have been working on LUPs, aka live updates, to fix these bugs. But the problem is that a lot of players don't keep up with checking the Twit each week or checking the Bungie dev articles, and a lot of this info spreads by community word of mouth, if at all. So if a player hears on Tuesday that the new activity is kinda meh, it's glitched and can potentially softlock your fire team, also the power grind is still borked and the drops aren't working properly, once casual players learn all of that, they're probably just gonna go tap out and play Borderlands, even if all the stuff is slowly getting fixed. I get that no launch will ever be glitch-free, but these are some major ones that are immediately gonna push players away, and man, you gotta lock that shit down before release. All right, topic number 2, the Eververse. Destiny 2 players in the Eververse are natural enemies, like Destiny 2 players and Warframe players, or Destiny 2 players and First Descendant players, or Destiny 2 players and other Destiny 2 players.
Damn Scots! They ruined Scotland!
Nah, but for real though, aside from the usual situation of there are many cool new armor outfits that are completely locked behind the Eververse, there was a new strange situation that went down. One armor set in particular, called Gladius, which IMO looks insanely good, is only achievable by being purchased with silver via the Eververse. But players have found old pictures of the original design for this armor, revealing it seemingly was intended to be earnable via playing Iron Banner. As you can see, very clear Iron Banner designs right on the armor itself, which now are no longer there. Meaning what likely happened is that somebody probably high up on the totem pole at Bungie looked at this awesome looking armor and said, oh, what, is that going to be earnable via Iron Banner? No, we're not doing that. Scrap that. Move that to the Eververse right now. And honestly, that just kind of sucks. Adding insult to injury after all this time of Iron Banner being away, with Ashen Iron marking its long-awaited return or whatever, we're only getting one new Iron Banner weapon, which is actually just an old weapon that I never liked with a refreshed perk pool, and one set of armor, which we were told was going to be, quote, an incredibly cool new set of armor. But yeah, that armor set, it's old, man. The new Iron Banner armor is just slightly touched up old Iron Banner armor that we were already given years ago, which leads me naturally to ask, what the fuck? Were we getting cool new Iron Banner armor that got shoved into the Eververse and was replaced with old armor? Can't really confirm, but it sure as hell seems like it. Also, the Destiny community has been asking for a full set of Taken armor for literally years, and now we finally get one, again, in the Eververse as a silver exclusive. In short, not good. I know the game's got to make money to keep going, but at a certain point, you're just pissing off players when you're putting the most requested, most awesome stuff earnable into the Eververse. Also, when Ashen Iron dropped, there were reports that Eververse prices were suddenly higher than normal, which has been chalked up to being a glitch. Again, that is horrible timing, because even if this is a glitch, which dear God, I'm really hoping it was, some players are going to assume, no matter what, that this was some higher up at Bungie trying to sneakily increase Eververse prices and hoping that the community would not notice. All right, topic number 3, the new content. I'm gonna say that the new content we've gotten so far into Ashen Iron, respectfully, ain't it for me. Reclaim is the new activity we're able to play, which again is just kind of overthrow, and out of all the stuff eventually coming out in Ashen Iron, Reclaim is really the only one we have access to right now. We've got an exotic mission, not in the game yet. We have the epic raid, not in the game yet, and it was the first ever raid to get delayed, which did understandably not go over well because a lot of players had already taken time off from work to make sure they could play in the raid. We've got Festival of the Lost, not in the game yet, and has an insanely awesome armor set, which is likely going to be earnable only via the Eververse. And we have Dungeon Layers, which I'll talk about a little bit more in our final section regarding the portal, and that is kinda it. And I know there's definitely a Bungie vision of stretching out content so players don't blow through all of it in one day and then complain that we don't have anything to do for the rest of the season. Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation, but yeah. Also, ever since the Edge of Fate campaign, which I actually really liked by the way, we've only gotten in-game story updates in the form of NPC conversations at the end of activities, which most players actually miss because they're busy immediately re-queuing or going to orbit, or via collecting in-game data pads, which I'm sure is a much more cost-effective form of story delivery, but it does feel less engaging and way less special in my opinion. Also, ×2, random question. Why is this section where we're getting unique rewards from playing Reclaim only available for 1 week? I get that they're probably trying to light a fire under players' asses to get them to play the activity, along with a little dusting of FOMO on top. But really though, when these unique rewards are gone, and by the time my video is up they probably will be, why would players go play Reclaim when there are faster, equally rewarding activities in the portal like Starcrossed? You now have a brand new activity in the portal that likely nobody is going to touch until the end of the season because other activities in the portal are more rewarding. Which brings us to the portal and the power grind. I've been debating with the idea of eventually making a video where I talk about just the portal and all the problems I have with it, but for right now, why don't we just focus on stuff that got added to the portal in Ashen Iron. We got 3 Reclaim locations, Conductor's Keep, Cabal's Watch, and Fallen Bunker, 3 expeditions, aka the escort missions from Season of Plunder, which I don't think anyone was really hoping to ever see again because they are incredibly slow, 2 battlegrounds, Behemoth and Core, Contest of Elders, and 3 strikes, Fallen Saber, Hypernet Current, and Insight Terminus. I swear to God, I'm genuinely not trying to be a goddamn Debbie Downer over here, but I'm not really excited about any of these activities that were added to the portal. portal. The reclaim activity is actually new content, so thumbs up there. But Battlegrounds, Expedition, Strike, and Contest of Elders are all just old content getting put into the portal. Same thing with dungeon layers, by the way, which are just kind of small portions of actual dungeons that you can run. Unfortunately, the loot that you get from doing a dungeon layer is basically the same as you'd get with running any other portal activity, many of which are noticeably shorter than a dungeon layer. And yeah, you can get dungeon loot, but it's old dungeon loot, meaning it isn't tiered and doesn't get the seasonal gear bonus, so I can't really imagine a lot of players caring. When I look at or engage with the portal in any way, it is only ever for one of two reasons. Reason one, I am interested in whatever the bonus focus weapon is that day, and I would like to farm that weapon specifically. Reason two, I am trying to power grind, and in that scenario, 99% of what's in the portal does not matter to me at all. I and countless other players are going to straight up just go for whatever activity is going to respect my grind time the most. Whatever is the easiest, shortest, and most rewarding activity, that is what players are going to go for the power grind every single time. And the more I think about it lately, the more I really miss how Destiny felt before the addition of the portal being tied to the power grind. I think the concept of the portal in terms of organizing playable activities in D2, so newer players have an easier time browsing through a catalog of stuff they're able to play, is a good idea. It's like taking a box of random kitchen utensils that are all scattered and organizing it all into a silverware drawer. Makes things easier for newer players to find. But the way the portal is directly tied to the power grind really has hurt a lot of the spirit of the game, in my opinion. In the old system of D2, when weekly reset rolled around, it was kind of exciting. We had a big list of activities that, when completed, gave you drops that improved your power. Simple, easy to understand, and pushed players to do a wide range of activities every week. Oh sure, we complained about some of them, but it did encourage variety, and it gave you a reason to ping your buddies and be like, yo, weekly reset, hop on and let's do the raid, let's do a dungeon. Now we have to worry about annoying gameplay modifiers, score modifiers, what final score am I going to get, and what power gear is that going to give me based on what activity I'm playing. And it seems that with every new TWID, there's a whole new list of changes being made to the power system that we may or may not have to commit to memory just for them to be changed again 1 week later. And don't get me wrong, I like that they're actively trying to make the power grind better, but it's just insanely confusing and frustrating right now, to the point where I think the average player has probably mentally tapped out because it's too much to keep in your head. And yeah, the new system allows for unlimited power grinding, whereas the old system was limited to a certain number of drops per week. But the monkey's paw is that the old system was way more straightforward and way less frustrating to the average player. And that's kind of where I'm at mentally right now with Ashen Iron. I'm glad it's a free update, but overall, it just feels like it could have gone over a lot better. And I understand why the player base is underwhelmed. We've got a convoluted power leveling system that players are just going to optimize, because why spend more time grinding than you have to? Cool stuff that should be earnable in-game being deliberately moved behind the Eververse, very buggy launches which make gameplay frustrating, and new content being added to the portal, which is really just old content that no one's going to play anyway, because playing those activities for power gains isn't as efficient as other shorter activities in the portal. Really hoping that things get pulled together in December, because like I mentioned earlier, I genuinely think Renegades looks insane. But I'm really hoping that Renegades won't get immediately overshadowed by other problems plaguing the game, like which is kind of going on right now in Ashen Iron. One can hope. Anyway, if you have thoughts about the launch of Ashen Iron, let me know what they are down in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on stream.